okay, let me get this out of the way now. I kind of like this movie. Oh, come on! Come on, it's not that bad!
Without going too much into details at this moment, the biggest complaint I hear is that this movie doesn't feature Robert Englund, but instead Freddy's being played by Jackie Earle Haley.
And yet this movie gets overwhelmingly positive response despite not starring Tim Curry. And for being a much better movie with higher production value and better act. Okay, that's a bad example. The point is, let's try to keep an open mind. So, for the first Oh the Horror episode of 2018, this is the 2010 remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Ah, how times have changed. Not just for the franchise, but also for New Line Cinema. Gone are the days when their company logo will likely give you a seizure. So this movie starts and, they named the town Sprigwood. That's too much of a departure from the original. Worst remake ever. We open up with this guy named Dean getting the kind of service assholes like him should expect showing up without a booking 5 minutes before closing time. So he heads to the kitchen to try to find somebody in this oddly deserted diner. Hey there, boyo. Would you like a slice of people face pizza? Dean is jolted awake by a Freddy flash and is greeted by our Nancy Thompson for this movie. Oh, wait. Holbrook? Okay. Anyway, she's played in this movie by Rooney Mara, and it doesn't matter what she says or does for the entirety of this movie because her performance can apparently be summed up with this one line.
What's your favorite color?
Blue.
But I'll get to that later. Dean's girlfriend Chris then arrives, and he starts telling her all about these strange nightmares he's been having recently.
So what, you can't sleep?
I can sleep. I just don't want to.
Can hardly blame the guy. He did star in, count 'em, 5 Twilight movies.
He dozes off again, allowing Freddy to finish the job, and we cut to his funeral, where it seems his grieving girlfriend happens to find the whole service a little bit drearisome, falling asleep and having her own quick Freddy dream.
Come on, sweetie. It's over.
That's a smile that says she's thinking less about her daughter's state of mind and more about whether or not to grab McDonald's or KFC on the way home. Chris notices that the girl from her dream was actually her as a little girl, and this is going to cause some major plot holes to come up later, so I'll leave that for now. In the meantime, Chris's ex, not so Johnny Depp, decides now's a great time to make a move. And you're probably thinking, well, he's just trying to comfort her in this difficult time. To which I say, I don't trust the intentions of anyone who wrote, directed, and starred in a movie literally called Whore. Later that night, after we catch up with Nancy and some more heartless remake CGI scenes, Chris heads up to the attic to look for more old pics of herself, which for a town of adults trying to hide the past from their kids are sure making it easy to find, but again, I'm getting ahead of myself, and it turns out this was just a dream anyway.
Remember me?
Yeah, weren't you in that terrible Watchmen movie?
Things don't go much better at school the next morning. For one, Chris falls asleep again, but holy shit, look! Emos! I thought they all died out after the Green Day era. Hey, have you guys seen that holding onto a fart all day meme? Well...
Wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up.
Nearly 5 years and 106 episodes, and I've finally been reduced to flatulence humour. I am the Happy Madison of internet critics.
This is also the first time we completely see Freddy's face, another big complaint people have with the movie. And like the bad CGI, I have to agree, it's not a great look. His head is so swollen compared to Jackie's very skinny body, and the makeup is so thickly applied. It doesn't look like his flesh has been burnt away by fire. It looks like he's wearing the Brendan Fraser Mummy movie on his face. Anyway, after Jesse sees this very public display of trauma, he figures breaking into her room at night unannounced surely can't hurt.
But now every time I dream, I always see this man.
Now Chris, I too was shocked when Ari Lyondek Jr. was announced for the new season of The Bachelor, but girl, you gotta move on.
Jesse stays the night to try and comfort her, but Chris still ends up dreaming.
was just petting him.
Not cool, Freddy. Slaughtering dozens of innocent children and teenagers is one thing, but hurting a dog, even a dream version of one? Burn in hell, you monster!
She ends up in the same preschool I hear Victor Salva wanted to set Jeepers Creepers 3 for some reason, and bumps into Freddy playing some hide-and-seek game with the kiddies before waking up in a start. But if we know anything about our boy Krueger by this point, it's that he loves his fake-outs.
Found you.
Now, in the original movie during her death, Tina crawled up the walls, screaming and bleeding profusely. It was disturbing to look at, and was our first look at what Freddy was really capable of in the real world. Here, I don't know, she just sort of flies around the room smacking into walls like Freddy's on his pinball machine kick again.
Tilt.
After Jesse realizes how much this dry cleaning bill is going to end up costing him, he makes a break for it over to Nancy's house to give her the whole spiel about not falling asleep before being very quickly apprehended by the cops. And I'm guessing they knew he was there because John Saxon left Nancy's bedroom window open hoping he would break in. So now he's fighting to stay awake in jail because those few hours between him being fast asleep to witnessing a paranormal murder to now would sure make me drowsy. It seems to work too, except for the whole moving walls thing. But that's nothing to do with Freddy. He just accidentally walked onto the set of 13 Ghosts. Hey, a boiler room. Haha, now you're talking. And after taunting Jesse with the corpses of his friends, Freddy, very much like the way he dealt with Rob in the original movie, makes sure Jesse dies in a way that looks like suicide, so people don't get too suspicious.
Tore his own chest open from behind. Definitely a suicide.
Or I don't know, maybe he'll frame Officer Prom Night remake here for the murder.
Did you know that after the heart stops beating, the brain keeps functioning for well over 7 minutes?
On the outside, Nancy and her not-quite Jonah Hill love interest, Quentin, are doing a study montage where we get one of the additions of this remake that I actually quite like.
But then it says at the 70-hour mark, the insomniac will begin to experience micronaps. His brain will begin to shut down its functions for several seconds in an attempt to recharge itself. This basically means that you're dreaming, but you don't know it. Like, even if you're awake.
This is a really cool addition because it adds a ticking clock ideology to the mix as well that not even hiding a pot of coffee in your bedroom can fix. I mean, sure, it's not 100% scientifically accurate, as micronaps are not actually dreams like you would have in an REM phase of sleeping, but whatever, it still makes the situation more dire for the sake of the movie. Nancy questions her mother that night about Freddy, but of course she denies any knowledge. Again, I'll get to that soon. And this is followed by Nancy falling asleep in the bathtub and wandering into a bedroom full of asbestos. What? You don't think that's scary? Well, just wait until she gets that expensive medical bill from the CT scan. Well, I do have to say, Freddy seems more gentlemanly in this version than he was in the original. At least when he licks Nancy's face, he has the courtesy to do it in person this time.
Nancy, you got to him. Jesse's dead. He died in his sleep.
Yeah, that's clearly what happened. Nancy and Quentin do some more snooping, eventually finding a photo of all of them as little kids, which Nancy's mum kept for some stupid reason considering what this leads to. And we finally get the reveal I've been saving up to. Basically, the kids all went to the same school, Freddy was the groundskeeper, and he was fiddling with the kids. So, let me get this straight. You go out of your way to hide all the evidence of your kids knowing each other that early in hopes they would forget this traumatizing event, yet you still live in the same town where they can all interact, increasing the chances of them remembering? And sorry, did I say hide the evidence? Because you kinda didn't. You left it all over the place. You brought it to Dean's funeral. Oh yeah, and big surprise also, the parents chased Freddy down into an old warehouse in town and lit the whole thing on fire, which turned him into what he is.
You killed Krueger.
Where'd you hear that name?
You chased him, you cornered him, and you burned him to death. You hunted him!
We did not hunt him.
In fact, after that fire, I would say he was more poached.
Oh, and also, Nancy and Quentin are the last kids left alive. Freddy's killed everyone else on that list, including this guy, whose death was even uploaded to YouTube, probably on Logan Paul's channel. With time running out and Nancy already suffering from micro "this happened in the original" naps, the two decide to head out to the preschool to find whatever it is Freddy seems to be pushing them towards. But we gotta stop for a quick PSA first.
Just fill it up.
No.
Winners don't do drugs!
Meanwhile, Nancy's micro naps are now getting worse and worse, so she goes into the pharmacy after Quentin, but that only allows Freddy to not only ruin her arm, but also this poor dude's carefully laid shelves. So she's rushed to the hospital where her mother seems to be waiting for her.
Who did this to you? How could you, Mom? You know who did it. You know who did it.
Well, no, she wouldn't, because Freddy was never a serial killer while alive in this version, and the glove apparently doesn't exist outside the dream world either, so shut up, Nancy. The two make their escape before the doctors can put Nancy under, and steal a couple of shots of adrenaline while they're at it. Jason Statham would be proud. And during the drive, we finally reach the big moment, the one everyone likes to play when talking about how bad a job Rooney Mara did as Nancy, and how she has no personality.
What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Okay, strap yourselves in, because I'm going to do something that very few people have ever attempted. I'm going to defend Rooney Mara's performance.
Okay, so if you've been paying attention, it's pretty clear Nancy has been suffering from Freddy dreams since well before the movie actually starts. And that's not to mention the 3 or 4 days this movie takes place over as well in which she didn't sleep. This girl is exhausted. Of course she's not going to be all bubbly and charismatic. Oh, and as for Heather Lannenkamp in her similar situation...
How long's it been since you slept?
It's coming up on the 7th day. It's okay, I checked Guinness. The record's 11.
Haha, awake for a solid week and still able to make jokes. Nah, I don't buy it. You'd barely be able to form a coherent sentence after that. Okay, granted this is more the writer's fault than Heather's, but my point still stands.
I'm probably going to get some flack for this, but for portraying a character in that mental state, I buy Rooney's performance a lot more than Heather's. Okay, rant over, moving on. Our heroes finally arrive at the preschool and head downstairs to Freddy's old maintenance room, where they find evidence that Freddy was a pedophile. Oh, wait. That was meant to be a twist? Oh! With all other options gone, Nancy decides the only thing to do now is to go into her dream and drag Freddy out into the real world.
Hey, great idea, writers. That's never been done before.
But unfortunately, Quentin falls asleep while on guard duty and gets his ass kicked by Christian Bale Kruger.
You can't save her! Murder me!
That leaves Nancy at Kruger's mercy as the two play a twisted cat and mouse game around a dream version of her house, and finally, after making Rooney relive the horror of her failed audition for the Carrie remake, he eventually has her cornered.
I had to keep you awake long enough, so when you finally slept, you'd never wake up again.
Of course, he let her live all those times on purpose, so when she went into a coma from sleep deprivation and he could have her for as long as he wanted, he could just kill her right away. Wait, what? But luckily Quentin jabs her in the chest with some adrenaline, which wakes her up and pulls Freddy back into the real world, where after a quick skirmish, he's finally dealt with for good.
It hurts, doesn't it? It's because you're in my world now, bitch.
Wait, this is the ending from Freddy vs. J. Oh, you're fucking shameless. So after setting the preschool on fire and destroying all the memories of Freddy to make sure he can never come back... Yeah, okay. This movie comes to an end once Nancy comes home from the hospital, and we can see just how well that goes.
I'm just glad you're safe.
And I'm guessing the reason Freddy didn't turn into a car at the end of this more modern adaptation was because he couldn't figure out how keyless go works. Well, that was the Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Okay, let's be real. There was a lot wrong with this movie. Obviously Freddy's makeup looks pretty bad, and the CG additions to it did have some bugs as well. And speaking of that, CG in other areas look pretty dated for the time too. And it's not a good sign when a man behind a sheet makes your expensive visuals look like garbage. The plot in the end didn't make a whole lot of sense when the parents could have just moved to keep their kids from remembering anything. Not that that would have helped much against Freddy as we saw, so okay, whatever. Despite this though, I'm happy they kept the more serious tone from the original, and the addition of micro-naps made the situation much more tense to me. It's a mixed bag overall, but I think this was a decent enough remake. Not the Thing, or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or The Hills Have Eyes levels, but well above the Halloween, Psycho, and Omen ones.
And since I finally reviewed this movie now, I suppose the next most logical step would be to head back to Crystal Lake. But until then, I'm Fedora, this is Earle Horror, save a screen for me, and we'll see you next time.
When I want you.